All right, thanks everyone for joining. As I just explained, Ali can't be here, unfortunately. So I'm going to be presenting and talking to Pat for 20 to 30 minutes, and then we will open it up to questions. So it's great to have you, Pat. If anyone doesn't know who you are, sort of founder of Smart Passive Income, you've written 3 best-selling books. But beyond that, do you want to just give everyone an introduction to sort of who you are, your story, and how you've got to where you are currently?
Sure. Yeah, I'll make it quick. I mean, first and foremost, I'm a father and a husband here in San Diego, California, and I've been an entrepreneur for 13 years now, actually building my own business. But I didn't set out for that. In fact, I started out as an architect, and I thought I was going to be an architect for the rest of my life until 2008. I was let go at the Great Recession here in the U.S. and world, it was a tough time. I didn't know what I was going to do, and I discovered this world of online business. I found the right people because there aren't always such great people on the internet sometimes. And I happened to get into a great community to teach me about taking some knowledge that I had, putting it into a website and helping people. And that knowledge was knowledge about a particular architecture exam. I put it online to help people pass this exam, and it did very well. Within the first year after monetizing that website, it had generated over $200,000 and completely changed my life. But more than that, I knew that there were a lot of people who needed the information that I was sharing or that I was doing and living. And so I created smartpassiveincome.com to just share literally everything that was going on with this business that I had created and new businesses too. So I like to call myself the crash test dummy of online business, because what I do is I will do things and experiment and see what happens. And I always report back for everybody else. And since starting this in 2008, it has grown to a podcast with over 65 million downloads, 3 best-selling books. I've spoken all over the world. But most of all, the business and the way it's structured allows me to spend so much time with my family and be here. And my wife is stay at home as well. And so we just kind of are living the best life, and we want to just pay it forward and give as much as possible. So a YouTube channel started in 2009, there's just been so much. I often am told that I do too much because I also have an invention. I have a software and an app company, and I have all these other things going on. But all throughout, I've been able to build a team to help me manage all this, and I'm having a lot of fun. Recently, 6 months ago, I started a new YouTube channel. This is in the Pokemon space, actually. And in 6 months, we are actually about to today cross 60,000 subscribers. And I'm going live tomorrow, in fact, to celebrate with everybody because anyway, it's just growing like wildfire, and I'm learning a lot from so many people. I've gone to different conferences and learned from people like Mr. Beast and others to learn what YouTube wants and how to actually put content on the space to hopefully take advantage of the algorithm and find the right people too. So Burhan here says, OG of online business. I'm starting to get like comments like, Pat, you're a legend, or you're the OG. And I'm like, man, that makes me sound so old. And I'm turning 40 next year. But, I know that, this world moves fast, and I've been in it for a while. So happy to help, here to answer questions and just share as much as I can for you.
So you mentioned sort of after getting made redundant in 2008, you went into this new community. What was your inspiration to going into that? And do you think your willingness to experiment and be open in that sense, as you are now with the Pokemon channel, is key to your success?
Experimentation is key. Absolutely key, where failure is an option. In fact, failure is great, because whenever you do something, you either get the result you wanted or the lesson you needed. True failure is giving up. And so that just tells you experimentation, trial, error, that all pushes you toward the success that you ultimately are trying to get. But back in 2008, actually, after I was made redundant, I had discovered a podcast, in fact, and this podcast was called Internet Business Mastery. And when I started listening to it, I really connected with the hosts, Jeremy and Jason. However, it was one particular episode that really struck me. It was an episode where they interviewed a guy named Cornelius Fitchner. And on this interview, they were talking to Cornelius about how Cornelius built a 6-figure business helping people pass the project management exam. Never heard about that exam before, but I love the story. He was a very humble guy and talked about how he did it. And I was like, wow, I mean, I was an architect and we took so many exams. Can I potentially do the same thing? So I started to get really excited. So first of all, it was somebody else's success story that got me excited and trusting Jeremy and Jason. So keep that in mind, because one thing I love to do on my YouTube channel and on my podcast is share the success stories of my students, my subscribers, my followers, and that always brings people back in, right? They're going to do a much better job of selling the brand and selling my products than I am, because they were in it and they lived it. And they can very much relate to the audience as well. And then they actually created a program, Jeremy and Jason. It was called the Internet Business Mastery Academy. And it was like $99 a month. And at the time, not having a job, I was like, you know what? I think that this is going to be an investment for my future. So I'm willing to try it for a few months. And they just basically, just like you all experience here in this academy, they gave me exactly the information I needed to do what I needed to do. And I think another thing here was during this time, I was actually still looking for architecture jobs. And I guarantee you, if one of those architecture firms said, yes, you're in, I would have just dropped everything, because I didn't believe that this was the path that I was supposed to be on, because I had gone to school for 5 years as an architect, and my parents paid my way through college, and would I be letting them down, or like would it feel like a waste if I went down this new path? And it's really interesting because as the architecture stuff online continued to rise, I still didn't believe that this was the case. So if you imagine, I was on this corporate ladder, right? I was climbing the corporate ladder, and here I was climbing another ladder, the entrepreneurial ladder. And I was basically trying to grab onto this new ladder while still holding onto the old one. And if you still have a foot or a hand on the old ladder, you're not going to get very far with your new thing. And I'm so grateful that times were so tough that I didn't get another architecture job, because eventually I committed. And that moment when I committed, I started to do things that I wouldn't normally have done. I started to, as an introvert, reach out to people and make connections, which I was normally very scared to do. I sold my first product, a study guide, to help people, and I wouldn't have done that otherwise.
Okay, great.
So although the layoff was one of the hardest things I'd ever lived through, it was actually a huge blessing in disguise, and I'm so grateful it happened. So that's kind of the quick story about how that all went down.
So what was it that made you embrace that new entrepreneurial and let go of the corporate ladder? Was there a moment in particular?
There was a moment. So it was actually my first sale. And I remember I had created the study guide. It took about a month and a half. I was in the academy, in the forums, asking questions, and also being learning that it was okay to ask questions and ask for help. I initially was like very scared to do that because I didn't want to look dumb. I didn't want to look like maybe I wasn't, the way I was supposed to be, but that's silly. And there was so many helpful people out there in this, not just this forum, but in the world, who were willing to help you. So they helped me along the way. I built this PDF file that eventually I just sold on the website. And I launched it at 2 a.m. because I was up and I was just like, I just need to get it out there. And then I went to bed and I woke up at 7 and I went to check my computer to see if there were any sales, and there were no sales. And I was like, oh my gosh, I wasted my time. This is all for nothing. But then I thought about it, like, who's buying study guides for an exam like at the early morning? Like, nobody. So then I was like, okay, I'm just going to go have breakfast and go have coffee. At 8:40 a.m., I get back to my computer and I see a PayPal notification of payment received. It was for $19.99 minus $1 something for fees. And I had made my first purchase. And I literally started hyperventilating. I could not understand what was going on. Initially, it was excitement, but then my head started to turn. I started to go, what if this person doesn't like the information? What if they ask for a refund? What if they sue me because this is false information? Like all these crazy stories I was telling myself. So I went out on a walk because I just couldn't handle it. I was just like, oh my gosh, I just need to breathe. I go out on a 15-minute walk. I come back to the computer. Another sale had happened while I was gone. So this was my first, I don't have to put X hours in and make X money. This happened asynchronously. Now, obviously I'd put hundreds of hours in and I only had made $40, but that told me about the possibilities. And somebody here, Burhan, was like, first internet money. There's something about that first internet money that you get that makes it feel real, that it's actually possible. And then more than that, I started getting emails weeks later from customers who said, Pat, this guide was a game changer for me. I passed my exam. Thank you so much. You'd help me save thousands of dollars, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that was interesting because in architecture, I have my fingerprint on several buildings around the United States. Nobody will ever know. I've never gotten thanked for that ever, right? I was just the grunt doing the blueprints and the papers and stuff. Yet here I was helping in a small community of people in the architecture space pass this small little exam, and I was getting recognized by my name and I was getting thanked. And actually, this is the origin story of where I started to build fans for helping people pass an architecture exam. And that's kind of where it all changed and helped me realize that, okay, this new ladder, it's pretty awesome and there's so much more upside.
So that was obviously for a course relating to architecture, but since then you've kind of created tens of courses, and now you've got nearly 20 that are more around sort of obviously the smart passive income, and you've also got a podcast around that theme. So what made you sort of change towards inspiring others to create passive income rather than just the architecture? What moment, when was that moment, and why go down that path?
Yeah, great question. You know, I had built smartpassiveincome.com never with the intention of making money, because I was doing really well with the architecture stuff. I just wanted to share how things were going and what was happening and what I would have done differently, right? Just full transparency, which apparently, even back then, but even today, was very new and revolutionary for somebody who was in the online business space, to just literally share everything, not just how I was doing and not just what I was failing at, but also how much money I was making. That was one thing that put me on the map back in the day, was my income reports. I would share that my architecture business online had this many customers, and we had this many, people come through, and this much money, and this is how much we spent. And people just started to share that. So I became even more open and just started building new businesses and sharing that. And I started to realize that there were other ways to generate an income other than just selling your own product. Because I had, again, no intention of selling my own product. But what I did was, for example, I would show people how I built a website. For example, in 2010, I did an experiment where I built a website from scratch in a space that I had no information about. And I was going to just show people how I would build a website, get it to rank in Google, and create content for it, and eventually make ad money. So I just shared that whole process for free. And through that process, you have to get web hosting. There were some keyword research tools and other things. I just kind of shared those things. And I had discovered this thing called affiliate marketing, where you can get a link from those companies you're recommending. And if people go through that link and they make a purchase, you can make some money. So of course I did that. And I remember making money, like waking up and going, wow, this, like 4 people went through my affiliate link and started their own websites. Like, they're just kind of following my journey and doing the same thing I'm doing. Let me share even more. And I'll tell you, 73 days after I started that website, which was actually about security guard training in the US, how did I create content? I literally called security guard companies and asked them, how would I become a security guard in your state? And they would just give me the information. I wrote it down, put it on the website. It wasn't available anywhere else. And that started to rank. Anyway, on day 73, this website ranked #1 in Google. And I'll tell you, my affiliate earnings, because I had announced that, hey, we got to #1, like, here we go. So if you want to go through this process yourself, just start at the beginning. It's all free, go through. Well, step 3 was get a hosting account. Step 5 was get an email account, all which would put more money into my pocket. So I was sharing information for free, but as a byproduct, earning an income through the tools that I was recommending. So that was really interesting. So just for 7 years on Smart Passive Income, my sole income was from recommending these different products. And I was making over $100,000 a month doing so, which was pretty incredible. Finally, in 2017, I had just so many requests from people to create a course about podcasting that I finally broke and said, yes, sure, I'll do it. Because for a while, I was promoting somebody else's course. Because again, it's just so much easier to do that than create my own. But people were like, Pat, we want to learn from you. And of course, you keep more of the profits if it's your own thing. So eventually I created a course I launched with a beta program, meaning I just had a few students go through to just ensure that it was great, to help get some testimonials. They saw massive results. And then I launched it. And when we launched that course in 2017, it's called Power Up Podcasting. We had made over $250,000 in the course of 10 days from that launch. Now you might go, wow, that's like an overnight success. But mind you, this is 8 years of building credibility and building an audience, sharing valuable information for free. So it's not like it happened overnight. It definitely did not. But this was, you might have heard Gary Vaynerchuk talk about this thing called jab, 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 right hook, right? Jabbing is like value, 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 give value, value. Right hook is the ask that you finally ask for after all that time. And I eventually finally landed this massive right hook, and that changed the game for courses, because courses, we saw much better results than the people that we were setting through affiliate links who we would often never hear from again. So now people are in our ecosystem, and we can help them even further and take them from one course to the next, to the next. Yeah, it's just incredible, and the things like the books and the podcasts, those are all great. Some of them make money through sponsorships or just book sales, but truly the idea, just let me introduce you to this world. Let me show you the things that we have to offer you for free. And then the value chain starts from there.
Yeah, I know that Ali's very sort of bullish on that book as well, and that theory of Gary Vee of jab, 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 right hook. And I guess the Jabs is all about building up fans, and that's kind of the topic of your latest book, isn't it? Super fans. And I just wanted to like get a bit more information about that, because I think you sort of argue that it's more about building a smaller, more loyal audience than necessarily a larger disengaged one. I wonder if you could just talk a bit more about that.
Yeah. You know, there are a lot of people online who will tell you how to grow a business, and they talk about search engine optimization. They talk about algorithms, all important stuff. They talk about paying for ads to get seen. But in my opinion, when you, number one, nail your niche and understand who it is that you're serving, and you take them on a journey to become a super fan, your business will grow much bigger and faster, and it's just going to be much more fulfilling. So if you take, for example, the sort of SEO approach and like just massive exposure, let's get as many people as possible to find me, you might end up on a triangle that looks like this. It's upside down. It's a funnel, right? This many people coming into the brand, then the next steps, so many of them are going to, you know, view your webinar or go to your sales page. And then so many of them are going to become customers, and then they spit out as customers on the bottom, and then you make money. And that's great. And the cool thing about funnels like that is you can automate it, and you can track, and there's ROI and all this kind of stuff. And that's important. But what's missing from that funnel is the experience that people have when they come across you. And so my book is about the inverted funnel. It's actually a triangle where at the bottom of this triangle, you imagine everybody who's ever found you. That's your casual audience, your people who have just found you. They don't know who you are. They're not going to invest in anything in you yet, but they maybe found you through a Google search or some other mechanism, a link on another website, what have you. Your job then is to take them up and into the active audience segment, right? The next segment where now they're following you, now they're subscribed, now they're active in some way, shape, or form. From there, a certain portion of them will become a part of the community, where now not just you're talking to them and they're talking to you, but they're also talking to each other. This is where you start to form an identity. And many of you, I'm sure, are forming friends within this group that you're in, and can imagine sticking with them over time. And that only can do nothing but heighten Ali's brand. And then some of those people will become super fans. And the truth is, when you think about where's most of your engagement coming from, where's most of your repeat customers coming from, where's most of your support coming from? Is it coming from the big fat bottom of this pyramid, or the small portion at the top? It's coming from the small portion at the top. And the beauty is, when you focus on those experiences that build the super fans at the top, those people will become your marketing team that will then bring new people in. And those new people are not going to come in casual or at the bottom anymore. They're coming in the middle because they're coming in from the inside. So you can actually grow your brand much stronger and faster, in my opinion, from focusing on the experiences that the few people have on the inside right now. And this is actually your advantage being small. If you are a small creator, you actually have a big advantage over bigger creators, because you can have a much deeper relationship. You can go 1 inch wide, 1 mile deep with them, versus what a lot of creators are doing is 100 inches wide, 1 inch deep. And that's not going to cut it when it comes to long-term success. And plus, it just feels good. And the truth is, people don't become fans overnight. It takes a lot of work. There are many moments that need to happen. You don't become a fan of the band of a song the first time you hear it. But what that does is it triggers people to then, you know, check out the album on Spotify, and to check out the YouTube videos. And then they start to get immersed in it. And then eventually, without even knowing it, they're telling their friends all about it, and they're bringing more people to the concert. So that's the approach I would rather people have. And to me, that's long-term business success. Because when you build fans, say Facebook shuts down, say YouTube goes away or gets bought out, or something happens, your fans will find you no matter where you go. And if you don't focus on fans, you'll have a very much experience like, there's an Instagrammer, I'm not going to mention names, but she had 2 million followers on Instagram. That's a load of people. She sold some merch, a t-shirt. She only sold 28 of them out of 2 million people. And she wrote this article how she was disappointed, how Instagram was holding her back from making money and all this crap. The truth is, there are people with 100 fans that can make tens of thousands of dollars from just 100 people, and everybody's happy. And so that's the approach I take.
Yeah, on that sort of final point that you made, or towards the end there, about sort of an own versus a platform where you own the fans and where you don't, like YouTube and things like that, you very much don't own the audience, but something like an email newsletter you do. How have you approached that, and how would you advise people starting out approach that kind of thing? Obviously, this is a course about YouTube, but we're obviously very in favor of email newsletters and that kind of thing as well. How have you approached that in terms of owning your audience?
1,000,000%. It's email. Right now it's email. And I only wish I started my email list sooner. In fact, in 2008, I was kind of against email, because I was like, Well, I can just sell them my website and they're going to visit my website and then I'll be able to connect with them there. But that's not going to work because it's not private. It doesn't feel like a personal message. Email can feel like a personal message. Email can be a way for you to learn about who it is that's warm in your audience. And no matter what happens on any platform, you can take that email anywhere. And just a very specific example of why this is important. In 2013, my website was hacked. There was a DDoS attack and it was out for 2 weeks, literally 2 weeks. The servers were all scrambling to figure out how to fix it. It was a mess, absolute mess. We've moved on to a different server because there were some issues with the server that we were working with. Anyway, I was okay because I had an email list at the time of about 14,000 people who I could let know what was going on. A podcast episode would publish. I would just send it over via email and the podcast never went down at all. And I knew that if I had to just bail on that website and start a new one elsewhere, that, you know, it wouldn't be exactly to where I was, but it would be pretty darn close because those people who actually care and that matter would follow me everywhere. So that's why that's important. I have a very, very, very personal experience about that and very bullish on email. But to me, email is not just a one-way conversation. To me, I would much rather get replies, not just so that, you know, my email is whitelisted from Gmail or whatever, but most of all, so I can understand more about who my audience is. And in the world of YouTube, I think that there needs to be a huge movement toward YouTubers building an audience on an email list. It has to happen because at any moment an algorithm can change, and people who have built businesses on the back of Amazon, people who have built businesses on the back of Google, they've seen literally overnight zero. Their business is gone because of something that happened that they couldn't control. You have to have email. You have to.
With that in mind, segueing into the YouTube side of things, how have you approached, you said you set up your channel in 2009. How have you approached it and how's your approach changed over the 12 years since? You've got about 300,000 subscribers now on your main channel?
Yeah, we're about to pass 300,000. It took 8 years to get to the first 100,000. So just, you know, you often hear how slow the start is and then it just kind of ramps up. This is going to be a common thing. I mean, we even heard from people like MKBHD, the most prolific tech reviewer in the world on YouTube. His first 100 videos were for his first 100 subscribers. And now he's at, you know, over 10 million or something like that. Same thing with Mr. Beast. I mean, he was just clowning around on Minecraft, and then all of a sudden he had a mindset shift and a focus to just remain consistent, and that he just kept challenging himself. And obviously now he's just kind of like wildfire. For me, my channel back in the day, because I was so scared to put my face on camera, was all just like screen recordings of different software that I was using in business. They're very cringe. Like even just thinking about them, they're really bad, but you gotta be a disaster before you become the master, right? And so I think it's really important to just get through that mess first. Like it doesn't even matter who watches those videos. YouTube's going to help you out and push you out, and you're going to focus on what it's like to create better thumbnails and better titles and better storytelling and hooking in the beginning of your videos. Like that's just going to come naturally, so that by the time you get to your 100th video, you now know who your audience is. You now have this sort of system in place for creation, and you now know what it's like to create these really important things like titles and thumbnails so that those videos will do well. And in many cases, you might strike gold, like with my Pokemon channel, which in 6 months is now we're about to cross 60,000 subscribers today, which is kind of insane. And that's, people go, wow, like, how did you create that channel so fast? Well, I have another channel that I spent 12 years building that taught me all this stuff that I'm now applying to this new space. So that's why it seems like it's happening faster there. But over time, I started to get more comfortable. I started to, like, every once in a while put my camera on face. And then I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be scary. Nobody says anything bad. Like nobody said anything bad. And if they do, those aren't the people you want to serve anyway. So block, move on to the people who actually do care. And then I started to realize, okay, well, I need to get a little bit more focused on these videos. And I started learning, I started going to conferences, started telling better stories, and started just not fiddling around anymore, just not caring if this is going to work or not. Just try to do my best to pick a topic that my audience wants, create a video, send it off to the editor, and there we go. And sometimes those videos do well. Sometimes they don't. If they do well, I try to learn why. If they don't, I try to learn why, and always try to just get better each time. And on that channel, you know, it's doing really well. The beauty of a business related channel is your RPMs, or your revenue per 1,000 is going to be much higher than, for example, the Pokemon channel that I have, which is much, much lower because it's more entertainment based. But the ads are just a byproduct. For me, it's about the community that you can build. And if you're building an email list or want to build an email list, it's YouTube is how you find people. YouTube is what you're using to build a relationship. But where do you want to take that relationship, and how do you take it a little bit further? Perhaps it's getting people to sign up for a masterclass that you might do, in which case that builds your email list and allows you to have even more direct conversation with people. Maybe you offer a free PDF checklist on the thing that you taught in a video, in which case people are just going to obviously download that because it supports the video that you just created. That's called a content upgrade, and that can live behind an email. And then now I'm just kind of now on the channel, as we hit 300 subs, I'm experimenting with stories, and the idea that great storytelling, and Ali does a great job of this. I will forever remember his rap video, his rap video, like that, storytelling of before it's a little cringy, you're in him with this journey, and then he unlocks something. That's the hero's journey, right? How do we bring the hero's journey into the storytelling? Because those are all the great stories that we always pay attention to and pay money for to go read books or go to the movies for. So I'm actually educating myself right now on better storytelling. How do we tell better stories? Because I think that when you do that, you hit people on an emotional level, things become more relatable and relevant to them, and you keep people till the end, right? And those are the things that you kind of want to happen when you are creating YouTube videos anyway.
Yeah, exactly. We've been very sort of strong on the storytelling in the last couple of weeks, because I think Ali's realized in the last sort of 6 months how important it is for his own videos, and being more conscious of threading stories throughout the video. I've just wondered, have you learned anything from YouTube that you've applied to your wider business?
Oh, 100%. The importance of a hook, right? On YouTube, you have what, like 7 seconds to convince a person who actually gets to click on your video, who actually gets encouraged enough to click your video. Like that in and of itself is really hard, right? We got, like, to get a person to click and watch your video, awesome. That's 50% of the battle. But then how do we get them to stick around? So really telling people up front what they're going to get in this video and why it's important. Even if you're storytelling, how can we say something to get them intrigued so that they stick around to the end? It took years for me to understand the importance of that, but you can see it in the retention graphs, and YouTube will even tell you in your retention after you get a couple days of data that, in the first 30 seconds, how is it doing compared to other videos? And when I see it drops, I go, okay, let's go watch the first 30 seconds and see if we can decipher what I did incorrectly. And then if it's doing really well, I go back and watch that video and go, okay, what did I do there? Because I want to continue to do that. The cool thing is you can experiment, but data is wildly available on YouTube. It's more available on YouTube than anywhere else I know. Podcasting has hardly anything. Blogging, you get Google Analytics, but YouTube is just fascinating for data and what you can learn from that. So the power of a hook and the importance of that, I've applied that to my podcast. And man, the retention rates on the retention rates on the podcast have just skyrocketed as a result of bringing that over. Another thing, the importance of on YouTube, it's the title and the thumbnail, right? The first thing people see, it's that moment of distraction that's required for a person to stop scrolling with their thumb or their cursor and then go, wait, I need to click on that video, right? And that's on YouTube, the combination of the title and the thumbnail. But that makes me think of what's the moment of distraction on for my website. Well, how does my website look on Google? Because that's often the first time people see it. They don't see the fancy logo. They don't see the crazy copy that I have there. They literally see the title of the website and the small description that I have, and that's all they have to work off of. So let's focus on that, because that's literally the first thing people see before anything else matters. On email, it's the subject line. Literally the only thing they see before they read the body of my email. And I can write the best email in the world, but if I don't have a great subject line, well, it's not going to matter much. So focusing on the subject line, and what YouTube has taught me is that you can be a little, and should be a little bit, clickbaity, if you will. Now, not clickbait and switchy. You never want to be bait and switchy. And that's where I think people worry about the term clickbait, because oftentimes clickbait turns into, hey, click on this thing that's going to give you this, and then you're presented something else and that doesn't feel good. Versus you kind of have to give you have to give people a reason to click, or else all the great information you have to share about that thing is not going to matter, or they're never going to find it. So that opened me up a little bit to the idea that, okay, how can I now think of first a click-worthy title and thumbnail combo, and then shoot that video? That's been a huge game changer for me on YouTube. And I don't know if this is what Ali teaches specifically, but it's made a massive difference, at least for YouTube, because oftentimes I would film something that I thought was cool, and then I'd try to force a title and thumbnail on it. Now, if I'm, for example, going to a location and filming, I want to already think about, okay, at this location, what would be a click-worthy title and thumbnail that then I can go to this location and film to support that title that I would click on, right? And so those things are really key. What else has YouTube taught me? Patience. The idea that, things that I create that I believe are going to do well, sometimes just crash and burn. And then other times when I just create something because I'm just like, fine, whatever, I'm just going to get it out there. I'm not even going to worry about that. They just skyrocket. And it's painful and exciting at the same time. And I just have to learn that that's like how the rest of the internet works too. With emails, same thing. With launches, same thing. So the most important thing is just keep going, remain consistent. You will get some wins, you will get some losses, but you either get the result you wanted or the lesson you needed. True failure is giving up.
Yeah, this is glorious. It's almost like Ali prepped you for this. You're speaking exactly from the Ali playbook. Yeah, no, we're very sort of bullish on the title and thumbnail importance before you even start filming, and I think that's something that certainly Ali's learned over the last year: the importance of that title, the importance of the thumbnail, and that first sort of 5 seconds. Because without that, at the end of the day, the algorithm can present the video to as many people as possible, but it's the person that has to initiate the click and actually click on the video. And so it's that you need to appeal to. And the title and thumbnail, obviously the bit that sells the video. Before we open it up to questions, just sort of one final question for me in terms of what advice would you give to people starting out or thinking about starting out, making money on the internet or affiliate marketing, that kind of, what number one path would you recommend people look for going into 2021, 2022 and the years ahead? Obviously, I suspect it's probably quite different to the situation we were in 13 years ago when you started out. What's changed and where can people look to go now and head now?
I mean, there's thousands of ways to make money, right? And what it all comes down to though is how well you serve your audience. I think YouTube ad generation is sort of separate. That to me is that's extra bonus money, right? I think there are better, smarter ways to make money sooner, even before you hit 1,000, subscribers on YouTube or 10,000 hours, whatever the benchmark is. For me, it's who is it that you're serving? What are their biggest challenges right now, right? When you understand that, a lot of other things fall into place. What you create videos about, how you start filming those videos and what you say. When you know who it is that you're focused on and what they need help with, they will literally guide you into what you need to do. And when it comes to monetization, for me, your earnings are a byproduct of how well you serve your audience. Let me say that again. Your earnings are a byproduct of how well you serve your audience. And if you're just starting out, I would get really involved with an audience and who that, like in the Pokemon channel, for example, I'm fully immersed in that space. I am on different people's live streams. I'm learning everything I can about the language. I wasn't into Pokemon last year, but I am this year. And I've just literally dove headfirst into the deep end with who these people are, what they love, why do they do this? All this stuff, right? Like mostly the psychology of who it is that I'm serving. What you do from there is then you can find one person that you want to help and give them one result. And whether that result is the fact that you gave them a recommendation for a product and you made money through affiliate marketing, or you're literally building an online course or a coaching program, or you are providing them a service of some kind, design, whatever. If this were easy, what would it look like? You find one person. When you find that one person, that's going to teach you a lot about what it takes to find the person, where they are, and what it would take to get them to say, yeah, I want to work with you, or yeah, that sounds interesting to me. So you're going to learn a lot just by going to one person. Then when you help that person get a result, you are learning what it's like to actually serve that person, to help them, to teach them something. They might push back on something that you had no idea was even an issue. And you're learning this up front with one person so that by the time you reach the end and you are now going to be more public with this course or more open with what it is that you offer or your agency or what have you, you'll already know the things that are going to come and know how to share it, know how to market it. And the beauty of this is when you get that one person the result, you will learn that you can actually do it. That confidence unlocks for you. And you're going to have much more ability for you to go out and actually, sell this thing, because you're not selling. Selling becomes an issue. And a lot of people hate that word or hate doing it. But in fact, you are doing a disservice to your audience if you don't sell the thing that you know can help them. The problem is we sometimes try to sell something that we're not quite sure will help people. So you better know that what it is that you're creating or doing or offering a service for is actually worth a person's time and money. And when you unlock that, which happens when you get that one result for that one person, something happens in your brain and you become much more confident when you sell it out there, when you put it out there in the world. The other thing that happens is you now have a testimonial from somebody who's gone through your program or your work or has worked with you. And now there's another person who can tell that story about how much you've helped them. And it's just going to be so much easier to sell too. And that's the approach that I would take. And whether that, like, a lot of people come to me and go, Pat, should I create an online course first? Or should I create a book first? Should I do coaching first? I'm like, you're asking the wrong question. The question you should be asking is, what's the biggest pain and issue your target audience is having right now? What program, tool, thing would help them the most right now? Start there. And I promise everything will unlock after that.
Great, cool. Thanks very much, Pat. Now we will open it up to questions. I see we've already got some hands up. We've got 20 minutes left, so
cool.
We'll try and get through as many as possible. Taz, you're up first.
Hi, Pat. Great talk.
Hey, Taz.
Thanks for that. Really inspirational, actually. And I've just got a couple of questions for you. The first is, when you pivoted away from architecture, did you have a moment where you, even when the internet thing was kicking off, because you described it as moving between one ladder and another, did you have a moment where you almost went back? I know you said if you had been offered the job, you would have, but did you have a moment where you weren't offered the job, but you were still applying, like that kind of period of doubt?
In May 2009, I got a letter from the United States Green Building Council. This is the company that creates this exam. And they told me I had 14 days to take down my website, or else they would take further legal action. And I got to tell you, I was like, this architecture stuff that I used to do sounds really appealing right now, because I don't want to deal with any of this. I am way in over my head. I didn't, like, why did I believe this was the new path for me? I can't even, like, how did I know? I just retreated. I was like, I'm done. Hands up, business, I'm done with it. Let me go back to this thing where other people can tell me what to do and I'm not going to get in trouble. So obviously I had to deal with this. I hired an attorney, literally found him on Google, because I didn't know any attorneys. And they read the paper and they're like, Pat, it's not as bad as you think. You just were using their trademark in your domain name. You just have to switch that. Because I was using lead, which is the name of the exam, in my domain name, which was in the lead, LEED.com. But that hit hard, because I was like, why did I think I was qualified to wear all these hats? But then I realized, well, there are other people who you can hire or who can help you who wear those hats. And then I got the new website up and everything was fine. So that was a scary moment where I just wanted to retreat and go back. And I'll tell you, for the first few years, literally every month I would have a thought that would come across my head, like, what if I don't make any sales this month? Like, what if this is the last month? And I would just have those doubts. But then a few days later, a whole barrage of sales would come in. And it's like, why do I keep saying that I can't do this? And again, it was only when I committed and leaned into it that I started to see even more success. So those doubts always come. But I think that those doubts are, if you really think about it, it's more like a safety mechanism that your body and your mind has. And, you know, we're only born with a few fears, like inherently. We're born with the fear of falling. We're born with the fear of like snakes and loud noises. Every other fear is a result of some external factor that we've learned from parents, society, school, teachers, etc. You know that you are inherently born with falling, because if you take a baby and you like pretend to fall, don't just take a random baby and try this. But if you have a baby and you pretend to fall, their arms go out, right? It's like that's their natural reaction. So everything else is based on learning. So that means you can unlearn these things and you can try to find where deep down these biases come from and these sort of limiting beliefs. And then to get you through that, it's the small wins. When I was going through that time, I would go back to my inbox and read the thank you letters from people who had passed my exam, or the exam that I was helping. And I was like, no, I can help people. No, I am doing something right here, right? So through the hard times, look for those small wins where things did happen in the people that you're serving, and that'll help you get through those things.
Could I just ask a quick follow-up about when you actually built that course? Myself, I have something that I know would be very valuable to my people in my kind of legal space. But it's like, I wouldn't know actually what is the route to take to build something to give. Is there a website you'd recommend to, let's say you've got the knowledge, but it's kind of putting that through into, I don't know, a PDF, a course, just something that's I'm going to give for free, just to kind of, whether through my email or whatever it is, just to kind of just get the ball rolling, just
Well, let me ask you, this is a question that Tim Ferriss asked me once that changed my mindset about these things. If this were easy, what would it look like to you?
Probably be a PDF, just maybe a 10, 15 page PDF.
Just pop it together, have people get access to it via an email.
Yeah.
Take the easy route. You can always improve, make it more complicated later. But too often we creators and entrepreneurs will default to complicated because we don't believe things should be that easy. So always ask yourself this question. This is something that I learned again from Tim Ferriss. If this were easy, what would it look like? Well, why not just start on that side of the spectrum? So yeah, there you go.
Cheers, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cool. Abjit.
Hi, Pat.
Hey.
First of all, thank you for all the great work you do. It's really helped me out set my website up and everything. The problem is that I've got the content I'm making is science communication and teaching people how to think critically. Now, this is not something that people usually seek out as a problem that they're trying to solve. They're usually made aware of it. So my target audience is more of the people who are on the fence or who are already journeying into thinking more critically and into skepticism, etc. The thing is, what I'm trying to think about is what other products and passive income opportunities can that have other than just YouTube, you know, ad revenue, sponsorships, and Patreon and stuff like that, which are the three main avenues that I've seen so far. But as far as courses and stuff are concerned, I've been thinking of a course where, you know, you guide people as to these are the things that you need to know if you are trying to figure out whether something is true or false. And that's about as far as I've gotten. Would you have any suggestions on how to think about this?
Yeah, my suggestion would be to micro test your way there. And this is something I talk about in my book, Will It Fly, where if you have an audience and you're looking to potentially create something for them, before you go out and build the big course, before you go out and create the massive product or the, you know, the actual physical product that you're creating, create essentially a small prototype version of it and see if people are interested in that. So in this case, you might want to create a, let's say it could be a couple things. It could be a PDF file or even a master class where for 1 hour you teach this stuff. And here's the thing. If you get 0 people to sign up, well, that tells you something, right? If you get 0 people to get access to this, well, then that's not what they wanted. And you'll need to kind of restructure and go from there. And through conversations that you can have, you could potentially discover the right messaging and how to get them to this right direction. But this is, again, a micro test in a little petri dish that if it goes wrong, that's okay. You know that particular solution didn't work. Let's try a different solution here and see until we get something that kind of sticks, right? So the cool thing is then you can go and let's say you do a masterclass or a webinar or a training, you get people to sign up, cool. You get people to sign up and they show up, but not everybody sticks around to the end. Well, then you can go, okay, well, I got the first part right, but what I delivered in that masterclass or training wasn't right. So that's the next point of disconnect. And then you can try to make a connection there, run it again and see if you can get them to stick around to the end. And then at the end, maybe you offer a pitch to something, maybe a private phone call with you or a beta launch to a course that you're coming out with that is not, that's before you actually create the course, just to, again, see if people are interested. So all along the way, you're getting like little green lights that allow you to move to the next step. Green light, next step, red light. Okay, go back to the previous green light. That's the focus area where I need to figure out where the disconnect is or where I need to reposition or remarket. The other thing I would recommend you do is find other people who are similar to you in the space that you're in, whether that's on YouTube or through a Google search, other creators, podcasters, etc., and do a little bit of spying, like spying in a good way, where you're trying to discern, well, how are they serving their audience? And you might find that they have their own coaching program, in which case you can go, well, what would it be like to have my own? They might have their own course, or they might be an affiliate for a course. And guess what? Maybe you could be an affiliate for the course as well for your audience, because they're going to respond to you in a different way. So a little bit of reconnaissance on what else is out there and what's serving your audience can be great. One exercise I want to give all of you that actually I talk about in my book, Will It Fly, which will help you and all of you with this, is called the market map. Building your market map. Whatever space you're in, you want to create a spreadsheet with 3 columns, the 3 Ps. The first P are the places. Where does your target audience exist? What YouTube channels are they watching? What forums are they in? What Facebook communities? What online conferences, offline conferences, websites, etc.? Like all the places. That's the first P. The middle P are all the people. Who has already spent time to earn the trust from this audience? They could be overlapping a lot of the same things you've just found in terms of websites and whatnot, but maybe it's the top Instagram accounts, the top YouTubers, the top podcasters, etc. Make a list of all those people. Then the final column will be a list of all the products that that target audience is being served or sold to. So that, along with their prices, can give you the final P, which is your position. Because you could see from a map, right? When you're getting into a space, you often, when you're driving somewhere, when you're flying somewhere, you want a map. You want to know the lay of the land so you know where you can set up shop or start your own little, place. So now you can go, okay, all these people are doing this. Nobody's doing it this way. That's where I'm going to plant my flag and make my home in this space. And the cool thing about that is when you do this right, you are no longer a competitor to these other people who already exist, these people who you found. You are now complementary to them, right? Now you can easily be invited on their show because you have a specialty. You are in a different place in the space that they're in, serving the same audience. And many times those people become partners who will sell and push people toward your stuff too. The fourth P was price, to help you find, again, your position in the space. A lot of P's up in here, but I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll work on that.
Cool.
Big help.
Cool. Avis.
Hey, Pat, big fun here.
Thank you.
Question about your live streams. You were going wild with those live streams daily and so on.
I was.
I have a question about that. How does that impact your YouTube channel? What is your, looking back to that, what is better from your perspective? Scripted, prepared videos, regular YouTube videos, or those live streams for channel, audience growing, and so on?
Mm-hmm.
And second question in the same topic, how did you prepare, or how do you prepare those live streams? Because you are always very organized on topic, engage with audience and so on, but that is impossible to script that. How do you do that?
Thank you. So a little bit of a backstory. In March of 2020, when the pandemic hit, I decided to go live for my audience to just be there as a resource on YouTube. And I showed up and a couple hundred people showed up and I just started answering questions. And then they all said, hey, can you come back tomorrow? And I said, well, sure, I can do that. And then tomorrow became the next day and the next day. So I went 1 week straight and I said, well, maybe we can go 1 month straight. Let's go for a quarter straight. And then literally I went for 365 days straight, 1 hour each day. I had nothing else to do. I had nowhere to go. So I was like, well, I might as well make use of this and connect with my audience. So I went live every day for 365 days straight, same time every day. And some interesting things started to happen. Number one, I literally saw the same people show up every single time. I mean, there were some people who kind of came in and out, and there were some people who always found me sort of randomly, but there was a core group of people who literally made this a part of their life. So much so that without my even knowing, they created their own Slack community to have an after party after each stream to chat with each other and connect, to a point where they were making their own t-shirts about the stream because I had given it a name called the Income Stream, kind of cute. And there were a couple days where like I would start late and then I would see in the chat, they were like worried. They're like, oh my gosh, like what happened to Pat? Is he okay? And like that kind of stuff happens when you build these fans. And in my book, Superfan, I talk about the idea of like going up and showing up for your audience allows people to connect with you, but not just you. It allows them to connect with each other, right? Which is really cool. What did it do for my channel? It did not massively grow the channel like I potentially thought it would. It definitely helped me build a stronger relationship with my audience. It gave me incredible access to them to use some of those topics to research some stuff that could become a part of a course or a pre-recorded YouTube video later. But all in all, it actually stunted the growth of my channel. It didn't increase the growth of my channel like pre-recorded videos did. Every channel is sort of separate. There are other channels that are live stream centric normally, and they grow massively in their own way. But in this case, it actually stunted the growth. So I was okay with that. I would much rather during this time stay deeply connected with the audience, especially in this time of need, than grow the channel. But I remember hiring a consultant who, it was probably around day 250. And I was like, all right, I have a goal with my YouTube channel. I want to grow it faster. And they said, okay, well, first question, when are you going to be done with your live streams? And I was like, oh, okay. Like very clearly the live streams were not growing the channel. In retrospect, says Matthew, would I have created a separate channel for the lives? I think so. I think I would have done that. However, Now it's pretty cool because now I go live once a month to connect with people. People are always looking forward to it, and it is a bigger event. So therefore it grows my audience actually, because people are talking about it and they're sharing it. The daily became very tough for people to share. And when you think about it, if a person finds me on one of my regular YouTube videos and they get pinged every day for videos that don't necessarily matter to them, well, then why would they need to kind of stick around? So it did stunt the growth. I've since stopped. And then now I'm going to go more deeply into pre-recorded videos. How did I create those live streams? Well, again, if this were easy, what would it look like? I would sit down, press a button, and go. And I tried to build my systems in place so that that's all I had to do as far as like going live. So technically things were set up where the lights were in place, the mic, everything. I didn't have to fuss with any of that. That was already taken care of. In terms of topics, I would think about the topic the next day, the previous day, and I would write down 5-6 bullet points of topics that I want to cover. And most importantly, I would just trust myself to tell story and to just rely on, my own experiences with those things to teach. I did not script any of them. I would have died if I did that. So you kind of have to trust yourself sometimes. And I got to say, around day 100, I felt like I was in a flow. It took about 100 days to get very confident with, you know what, I just need the topic, and I'd be able to keep people engaged for an hour. You can't help but get better at something the more you do it, right? And thankfully I had a lot of time, so hopefully that helps.
Yeah, that's really helpful and interesting information. It was too much content for me personally to watch when you live stream it every day.
Exactly.
I don't have so much time, just that. And yeah, I stream it a few times on my channel, and I see that audience is coming, but very few people watching that later, and subscriber growing. Of course, there is no that. Thanks for input. Very helpful.
Daily's tough. If it wasn't the pandemic time and I still wanted to go live consistently, I think once a week would be great. Just maybe once every Monday to start the week for everybody, or once at the end on Friday, and just have it be something that during the week to the people who find me on my other videos could learn about and show up for, versus just every day. I was just a lot.
Yeah, I'm thinking about adding monthly live streams just to communicate with the audience, because otherwise YouTube is one stream platform, one side platform. Okay, thank you very much.
Right. You're welcome.
Cool. Yeah, we noticed a similar thing with our deep dives that we did last year. They generally tended to stunt the growth of the channel rather than actually increase it. So yeah, they've never really worked for us. Alice.
Hi there.
Alice.
I'm a newbie. So my question is, I think I heard you say that you started your podcast first and then went to YouTube, right?
That's actually not true. So I started the blog in 2008, my YouTube channel in 2009, my podcast in 2010, writing books in 2011, and that's kind of the progression of content creation.
Okay. Okay. So my question is, you basically do both. You do your podcast and the YouTube channel. So I'm wondering, as a beginner, what advice you would have to, if we're thinking about a podcast and YouTube, like which you would recommend doing first, doing them at the same time. I kind of would like to do an interview show where I interview others. So I'm just kind of wondering what advice you would have for a newbie.
So yeah, absolutely. My advice would be, don't do both. Choose one. Focus on it. That's going to get you caught up on your voicing and your productivity and your systems and all that stuff. And once you start to gain confidence on that one channel, then you can actually carry over and not just bring you to the new channel, but you can bring some of that audience to the new channel too. So you're not struggling to kind of build 2 new channels. You're building one, you're mastering it, learning all you can about it. That helps you focus in terms of what you're learning as well. We all have learning bloat as well, which if we're trying to learn how to do 3 things, we're not going to ever have enough learning to really, really focus on that one thing. So I would pick one. Which one? It's going to be really up to you. I think that there are pros and cons to both podcasts and YouTube. YouTube obviously has the algorithm and many, many more people, viewers, but it's also super massively competitive. I mean, there are 50 million active YouTube channels. There are about 1 million active podcasts. So it's like night and day. That said, you can create a podcast. It's going to be very difficult to find people to listen to it sometimes because there is no algorithm like there is on YouTube. But the relationship that you build with those people who are literally listening to you for 30 minutes to an hour at a time is much stronger than a person watching a 4-minute video or 4 minutes of your video on YouTube. So again, there are pros and cons to both. Pick one and go for it. Now, there are people who might go, well, Pat, can't you do both, but do it in a smart way? For example, you could record an interview on a video and then rip out the audio and put it into a podcast. You can do that. There are some worries there. For example, if you are doing a video and you're pointing to anything or there's anything referencing something that is visual, it's going to be a different experience for people who are just listening to that. So you got to be careful. And then the other thing is that's not necessarily what YouTube prefers to show. There are some very successful shows on YouTube that are essentially podcast interviews on video format that actually rip the audio and put it out. For example, Lewis House's The School of Greatness, and Sean Stevenson started doing the same thing, a person in the fitness space. However, Joe Rogan obviously does that. But they have the benefit of having celebrities on their shows that it doesn't matter what the video is like, people are going to watch because they want to stay around and listen to them. In most cases, when I've seen people put long form interview content on YouTube, what happens is people start watching and they're like, I'm going to watch these two faces just talk to each other for 50 minutes. No, they're out. That can actually hurt your YouTube channel because you're signaling to YouTube that people come to these videos and they leave super early. Well, then let's not push any of your other videos out. So if you're going to do that, that could be best on a separate channel if you have regular, shorter YouTube videos. But again, if this were easy, what would it look like? Let's pick one, do that, and then you can focus on the next one after that.
But if you're doing the podcast and you're recording them anyway, so I guess you kind of said it a moment ago, it might be harmful just to put them on YouTube anyway, because you're doing the work anyway.
In full, if you put them on, it could actually stunt your YouTube growth if you have other videos. If it's just a full-length YouTube channel anyway, then that's fine. But where there's a happy medium is you could, if you film the interviews, you could actually take snippets. And this is the sort of advanced strategy. You take the chunk between minute 8 and minute 13, which is about one specific topic, super high value about that one topic, because in a podcast, you might cover many things, right? And then you rip that out, you put that on YouTube, you have a title and thumbnail about that one thing, and now you're getting search volume for that one. That's actually how I didn't find Joe Rogan because I was a Joe Rogan fan. I was searching something and then a clip from one of his podcasts showed up, and then I just, that took me to everything. So that could be a possibility too.
Okay, so don't put the whole interview, just put a clip is what you're saying. Might be the
that would be my recommendation.
Okay, yes. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Oh, thanks very much, Alice. We have got a hard stop at 8, at the top of the hour, I'm afraid, everyone, so we can't take any more questions. I just want to thank Pat for giving up your hour here. That's been really, really useful. We've had lots of good comments in the chat. Is there anything you want to just say before we leave? Anything you want to sort of plug or advice you want to give as a final passing note?
I mean, my best piece of advice is you could learn all you want, but if you're not taking action, then it's just a waste of time. So what you're learning here in this group and what you learn when you consume something, like, put action to it, right? Because again, you're either going to get the result you wanted or the lesson you needed. And to a quote that somebody had mentioned earlier that I shared, you got to be a disaster before you become the master, right? So just put yourself out there and realize that it's all a fun experiment, because these things teach you things along the way, right? It's not a problem if things fail. It's now a challenge to figure out what I can do next. And if you wanted to get involved in something that I think would be relevant to where all of you are at right now, I would just recommend checking out my book, Superfans. You can check it out on Amazon. It's very relevant to building an audience and leveling them up to a place where now they're sharing your stuff with others too. So I hope that helps, and I appreciate you. And thanks for having me on. Hope to come back again sometime.
Yeah, it'd be great to have you back. Cool. All right. Thanks very much, Pat. Thanks, everyone. And yeah, see you next week. Cheers, Pat.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.